welcome to another episode of SenshiCon Cosplay Myths podcast. This episode, we are talking about transportation and online, and I'm your host, Rebecca, and this is my co-host, other way, Deborah. We're doing great today.
It's not like it's our 10th or so episode.
I think this is our 11th. Yep. So just like last time, this episode is pre-recorded. So we will not be answering questions live, but if you do have questions, you are more than welcome to leave them in the comments below, and we will address them either directly or in another episode later on. If you can also give your questions via email. You'll find the email for Deborah in the description of this video. Yeah, thank you. We're doing great. Okay.
That's not like
moving on.
Yeah, it's a day.
Yeah, no, it's so now we're tripping up. That's how it happens. Well, as I mentioned earlier, our topics for today are transportation and online shopping. And transportation is a really big thing because even if you're just in Alaska, like you're in Anchorage, you still have to get your cosplay from house to convention center. This is more important, especially if you're like going from Anchorage to San Diego or something like that down south.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, even transportation from here, from Anchorage to just a convention center downtown, that there's a number of different ways to get down there. So you got to figure out which one are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I do know, like, I went to SakuraCon a few years ago, and I was riding, like, a public transportation, and I saw somebody wearing their cosplay on, I think it was a bus. Yes, it was like a bus, and it's just like, okay. I knew what they were. I figured it out fairly quickly, but at the same point, it was like, oh, that's gotta get you some looks.
That takes a whole other level of, I guess, like confidence, I guess you could say, just because you got to ignore the looks. Probably some people who are going to approach you and ask questions. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I've walked onto a bus in some like odd looking clothing or even just fan memorabilia, and the looks you get on that. I'm like, can you imagine full costume? I don't know if I could deal with it.
Yeah. But it does beg the question of how on earth do you get cosplays to different places?
For sure. So let's just go over the basic transportations. There's your car if you drive. If not, you got to figure out, are you going to take the bus? Do you have the money to take a lift? Or there's even the possibility of like even walking. Which depending on your state where you're at as well, walking probably isn't the best option. I know here in Alaska, that's not going to happen for most of us because we are very spread out. But yeah, so let's start off with like the first one. So your car. Okay, so say you have a standard small car, like a small Ford Fusion or something. Then you got to figure out like, okay, do I want to build my cosplay around being able to fit in this car? Which in some cases you really should look into. I mean, if you're wearing, let's just do a ball gown. The ball gown is the first thing that comes to mind because I've done that before. You've got your 7 or 8 yards of fabric, and then you have how many layers of that said fabric? Are you going to be able to shove that fabric under your steering wheel so you can drive?
Safely.
Yes, safely. You got to make sure you can turn the steering wheel. I don't know the number of times I've seen people actually they'll scrunch their skirt up to like their chest and tuck it under their seatbelt so that they can drive. I've seen it happen. I almost did it myself one time.
I just imagine trying to close the door. That would be the big thing. Is get the door closed, don't get the dress caught.
Yes, that too. Oof. Oof. Yeah. Weren't you telling me a story one time? You saw someone, they had to get someone else to help shove the dress in the car.
Yes, it was also at SakuraCon, and there was a shuttle that went from the hotel I was staying in to the convention center, and they were wearing such a fluffy cosplay. Their skirt was so fluffy. They literally were just kind of like rolling it into the van, and then one person just like they held it in just for a split second and went, "Hold slam, boom, they're in." And like there was
Hey.
this moment of checking where it was like, "Yes, is it caught in the door? Nope, we're good." Whew,
Mm-hmm.
we win.
Yeah, that is one thing to keep in mind too. Like if you're gonna have a hard time getting in the car, you might need to think about having someone there with you to make sure you can get in and out. Granted, in those cases though, it's probably easier to have said person if they're able to drive. That's usually the best option.
Mm-hmm.
I know for like our younger audience, they've got their parents that drive. So definitely gonna want to work around your parents' car. Make sure that they have the room. I'm guessing you could probably fit in the back seat easier with a poofy skirt,
Yeah.
dress or whatever. But again, it depends on the type of vehicle you have. I've driven a beater two front wheel, like it only had two-door car in a ball gown, and that wasn't the best decision I've ever made. Um, but
No.
you definitely, it's just one of those things you kind of got to figure out. I know for those like, okay, so say you don't wear ball gowns, what about armor?
Oh.
So armor is, yeah, because you got to be able to sit. You don't want to bend your armor pieces, get it caught on the door, things like that. I do know most cosplayers that I've seen that do armor up here actually put it on at the convention center or while they're in line. Yeah, the number of times I walked from a parking garage and I see people putting on their clothing items and then doing the armor and whatnot. It's just like, I get you. It's how you know they're your homies.
Yeah. Yep. I remember we were at SakuraCon. I was waiting in line to like you have to wait into a bunch of lines to get your ticket to go in. And this one guy was putting on his wig because he was cosplaying someone from JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, and they had like
Mm-hmm.
he had this long purple wig, like down to knees purple wig, heavy thing. He there was a lot of discussion about how heavy that thing was, but he was just trying to like get dressed while standing in line, and I'm like, that's actually pretty smart. I mean, you got to stand in line anyway. Just
Yeah.
get all the fine tune stuff done.
Yeah, no, especially with like longer wigs. Driving with long wigs is a nightmare. I will tell you that now. Anyone that's worn them before knows that when you sit, you have to kind of move them forward because if you sit with it if you sit like, with it normal, like behind your back, the chances of that knotting while you're sitting there, if you're not careful, is so high.
Oh,
So I
I
had that
would not have
problem.
thought of that.
Yeah, it's usually a thing more with like the cheaper wigs that tends to happen with the cheaper like thinner
Mm-hmm.
ones. But I know for like newer cosplayers who don't invest in like the nicer wigs, like either from like Arta or Queso or whatever place, say you get like off of Amazon. Granted, there are some nice Amazon wigs. We'll talk about that later though. Um, but some of them, the cheaper ones, tend to just knot up very, very easily. I could just swish it and it would not.
Mm.
So that is something to keep in mind also, like when you are, if you're driving your wig itself, it's like, okay, because I know there's, the high ponytail ones and pigtails. Is it going to hit the top of your car if you've got a low car?
Oh.
Or if you're a tall person wearing a wig? You got to keep that in mind. So it's definitely
Spiky hair.
the spikes.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Hair.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's Yeah, no, it's not just like transporting the cosplay itself, because that's what I was thinking about is like, oh, how do you get all of this down south? It's, oh, yeah, you got to get yourself in cosplay to said location.
Yeah.
Mm.
So just getting there in cosplay, it's a whole other ballgame than getting your cosplay to point A, so you can go to point B. It's that's a whole other one. And then there is, I know we've got a pretty good bus system up here, but I know Alaska tends to have, depending on like your area, the bus system can be a little bit more sketchy. So I do know like a lot of people don't like to travel in their cosplay on the bus system up here. I'm not too sure how it is lower 48. I've only rode the bus once, lower 48, and that was in Los Angeles. And that was interesting. That was very interesting. I was tired, so I don't remember any.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't think I was in cosplay that time. I think I was wearing something that I wasn't used, that wasn't normal, but it was, I don't think it was cosplay. Oh no, shoot! Okay. I was wearing like a cover-up and like a bathing suit underneath. We were going to the beach.
Oh, okay. You were probably on the line that everyone was like, "Yep, they're coming back from the beach."
Yep. I was tired, so I don't remember most of it, so I don't care.
Yep. All right. So that's a lot of things to remember, is just like not only thinking about how you're going to put your cosplay together, but how are you going. So I do have to ask now, because this question appeared, like, how many times have you made a cosplay, Deborah, and then only afterwards did you go, crud, how do I get to the convention center? How do I get to the place and the dress up?
I'm guilty. It's not so much the cosplay itself, it's the props.
Oh.
I don't know if, so y'all might remember the year we had, what's her name? The guest who, she started Nier, she's a local. She voiced 2B in Nier Automata. Do you remember her?
Kira Buckland?
Yes, Kira Buckland. The year she came up, there was a whole bunch of Nier cosplayers. I was among them. I had cosplayed, sorry. Ooh. I had cosplayed A2, and I built a sword that was over 6 feet tall. Yeah. At the time, I had an itty bitty sedan.
Oh dear.
So I had to. It was very difficult. I had to take it to my friend's place, and then like I would shuttle it back and forth between, because we were building it. And once I built the hilt, I could no longer transport it in my car. And that was when I'd realized, I was like, I have no way of getting this sword downtown for this event. So thankfully, bless my friend, they, proper pronouns here, sorry. They had offered to transport it for me because they had a larger vehicle that could fit the sword without crushing it. So there's a number of times I have not measured my vehicle when I make props, which is why I now have a larger vehicle. I specifically got a larger one because I tend to be the one to transport the larger items. So, yeah.
I just imagine somebody transporting a cosplay sword or a cosplay something or other and getting pulled over for the cops because they see something out of their eye, and the cop looking in and going, "What is in your vehicle?"
We all make that joke on the way to conventions when we have that stuff, or we're in like questionable cosplay. We're just like, how ironic would it be if we got pulled over right this second? It's like, if they're gonna ask, do you have weapons in the vehicle, we'll have to say technically yes, but Which is like, how do we
Cos?
explain this?
Oh man.
Yeah, that's the funnest thing trying to explain to any authority figure is why just why.
Or if you're dressed up like a military person and it looks like you should have weapons all over you, because I know there's one of the staff members who likes to dress up as Unit from Doctor Who. And so he looks like he is an actual military person.
I'm trying to think. Who? What? I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, no, I remember. And you look at him and it's like he has actually told me a few stories of where he's freaked out people because he's walked in and he looks like he actually like he has no actual weapons on him. It just looks like he should. And if you're not paying close enough attention, you don't notice. And so he's just like, yeah, I've gotten a few looks. I've gotten a few looks. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
Another option I have heard is something called the token Naruto. Because a lot of people don't know about cos. So, Naruto is so popular, enough people know about it, even the layman people. And so if they see Naruto, they know other people are cosplaying. Because people have been like, all they see is like this army of monsters and scary things or crazy things, and they have no idea what's going on. They see like all sorts of things. And then they see Naruto and they're like, oh, anime. This makes sense. And it was a joke I heard, and I fell over laughing. I thought it was hilarious. It's just like, well,
I think I've heard of that before.
Yeah.
Well, back onto the subject of transportation. Yeah. So, obviously you've got you're going from, so just saying in-state, now out-of-state stuff, that's a whole other ballgame of what you're going to do. So clearly, first off, you're deciding your cosplay. Are you going to have armor pieces? Or are you just, strict fabric, props, different things like that? One thing to keep in mind is if you're bringing a prop that you have to carry with you on the plane, look at their regulations. A lot of planes do not let certain materials on board, even if you disguise it in like in like a ski bag or whatnot. They do check them generally. So definitely check out those regulations. They should be on the travel sites for you guys. So easy enough to find. And then one thing to keep in mind is too, a lot of times some flights, they won't let those on. They're so jam-packed that unless it's like you're disabled and you need that item, I've had times where I've heard cases of like cosplays have had to call their parents or someone to come grab the item because they can't bring it with them on the flight.
Oh.
So there have been cases of that. So definitely make sure you check with the flight. Maybe find a way to contact them to pre-approve the pickup bringing it on board. Which again, you could contact them via email, phone number, via their site. Different flights will have their phone numbers on. Again, you can find everything on their websites. So there is that to keep in mind. Now, the other thing I know, like the biggest problem with traveling is the weight limit, which is something you'll need to keep in mind when you're traveling with multiple cosplays. Your biggest and heaviest items is generally going to be your wigs and your cosplay shoes. Now, one workaround with this is carry-ons. So carry-ons, you can essentially get a mini suitcase. Double check the size because, flights now have a standard size that they'll allow on as a carry-on. But yeah, just shove those bad boys. Do they now?
I think they might.
I
Um,
haven't, unless it's recent, I haven't heard anything about a standard weight limit.
it
Because my
might be
suckers are
something.
usually, my carry-ons have always been
Yeah,
heavier than 25.
yeah. No. I don't know. For some reason, I think there was, or maybe I'm just misremembering. But either way, it probably would be a good idea just to double check that the carry-on doesn't have a weight limit.
Yeah.
Always verify, even if it's like you just flown. Always verify what the flight's requirements are, especially if you're flying with a different airlines
Mm-hmm.
or to a different place, because something may be different, something's going on. Just always verify and go, yes, is this still allowed? We're good. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if you're traveling, say, out of country. So if you're going to Europe, Europe's standards for weight and everything are much different as well. One suitcase that we consider a medium is considered a large there, and that can affect pricing and everything. So definitely something to keep in mind if you're going to the European conventions down there for sure. Now, your next thing is going to be, okay, what kind of suitcase are you going to bring? Everyone knows there's at least two different kinds of suitcases. You've got your fabric suitcases and your either metal or dense plastic. So those two, either one works pretty well. If you're traveling with armor or very fragile pieces like that, I would actually recommend getting one of the plastic or metal suitcases. I keep forgetting the word for suitcase. um, but I'd actually recommend getting one of those and then wrapping your pieces in bubble wrap. And that will help keep those suckers together. And if you're still under the weight limit, you can actually pack in like different clothes and whatnot just to kind of give it some padding. This way you don't have to spend money on bubble wrap. But yeah, these two suitcases each one will be a little bit different. Usually the fabric ones are what most standard people use for, just their clothes. I find those ones are better if you're bringing a lot of clothes that are lightweight because you can shove it in better and the top will stretch more. So you can pack more in there technically if you know how to.
Mm-hmm.
I always recommend watching. I can't remember her name now, of course, because it's one of those days. But the lady, the Japanese lady, she's the one who started the phrase, "If an item doesn't bring you happiness, get rid of it."
Oh, yes, I know that. I'm drawing a blank right now.
Yeah, but y'all know who I'm talking about. She actually has a couple of video series on like how to properly fold clothing and how to store it and whatnot. I think she even does one for traveling. If I don't quote me on it, but I think she has one for traveling. And that's honestly like you can fit so much more clothing by doing the method she recommends, which is usually like rolling up your clothes. And she'll show you how to properly fold and roll. And it's really, really easy, but you can fit so much more clothing, especially cosplay. So definitely recommend that. Um, yeah, my brain just went blank on what we're supposed to say now.
All right, so um, there are two different types of suitcases. There's the fabric one, which is really good if you have lightweight things or lots of clothing things because you can kind of fit more into it. And then you have the hard plastic or metal ones, which would probably be better for anything that you're kind of worried about that's fragile. Those are the things that you can wrap in bubble wrap and then put in there. And it's like, well, now the only way anything's happening to that is if you didn't wrap it properly and or something punched your suitcase. And if something
Yeah.
punches your suitcase, I think you have bigger problems.
Yeah, there is that. Those suckers are known to take a beating. And while, yes, there's still a possibility of because they toss around the suitcases sometimes, there's a possibility of, it hitting an edge or something. But if you packed it well enough, you might only get a few scuff marks on there, which if most cosplayers I know that travel tend to bring small repair stuffs with them anyways. So it shouldn't be too bad to fix. Also,
Which
most states,
tip
again,
for
craft stores.
yes, and
Oh,
tip
good.
for all people who are going to be transporting cosplay: be prepared to fix things, especially when you get to the other end.
Yes, 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 yes. I mean, granted, most states have, craft stores and what you can pick it up, but there's always that fear that they might not have the item. So it's always good just to bring even just a little bit with you. You don't have to bring your entire paint canister. You can honestly just go one of those travel case things. Like they're like yay big. Just dump some paint. There you go. That's all you need.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, just get a small little travel baggie that just for repairs. It helps. Believe me, it helps so much.
Yep. It's also good because then you take it to the convention center and be like, "Yay, world! I'm ready to take you on." I think.
Yes. Hopefully.
Yes, because I can imagine wearing a cosplay all day can also do wear and tear to it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I do know like some most no not most I guess most conventions will have a cosplay repair room, which is something I know Senshi has recently introduced, which has been very wonderful. When we're able to have it. It saved my butt a couple times. But yeah, most will have cosplay repair rooms. They don't have everything under the sun, but they do have a good base. So if something does happen, you've got that. One other thing to keep in mind, yes, that is English. When you are traveling out of state, your main form of transport, 9 out of 10 times, if you're not using the public transport system, is going to be, say, like Lyft or Uber or a taxi cab. I definitely recommend looking up the reviews for these sites if you are unfamiliar with the area, or especially if you're using a taxi. Because I know there's lots of different taxi companies out there. So if you prefer them over, again, like Lyft or Uber, the online transport sites, look at the reviews online. You should be able to just Google the company and then put reviews with it. And that will tell you if they're trustworthy and whatnot. But same, I mean, Lyft and Uber, I think nowadays most people know what that is and know how to properly use it. So that's the hope.
Also,
anyways.
look into hotels with shuttle systems, especially if you know the convention center you'll be at. Like the hotel I stayed at for SakuraCon, they had a shuttle system that got you. They didn't drop you off right at the convention center, but they got you pretty darn close. You were like a block away. So it was like, oh, yeah, I can walk a block. By that point, I was doing a lot of steps. I got so many steps.
Nice. Yeah, that is also something to keep in mind. So a lot of good Lord. A lot of hotels will have deals with the conventions, and and part of the deal is they'll actually have shuttles that will take you to and from the hotel to the convention center directly. So while it's definitely going to be more expensive than an Airbnb generally, but sometimes it's kind of worth it just because of all the deals that come with the convention center. So it makes it a bit easier. And then this way you're also traveling with other cosplayers, so it's a little bit safer as well.
And or like when SenshiCon was in the hotel, if you can the hotel that your convention is being held in, if it's being held in a hotel, that is beautiful.
Yes.
Then all you have to figure out is how to get the cosplay down the elevator.
There is that still, yes. The number of times my cape almost got stuck in the elevator doors, I cannot tell you.
I remember a story of apparently there was a convention being held in this big hotel and somebody dressed as a demon. And unfortunately, I think there was also a religious convention or seminar going on. So these poor ladies had the elevator open and there was a cosplayer who was like this big huge demon. And I guess he had one hell of a sense of humor because the door opened and he said, "Going down." I don't think the ladies got on the elevator.
Those poor old ladies. Oh,
Yes, yes. So yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so be aware of what else is going on, like with SenshiCon 2019 when we also had the dancers at the Egan Center, and that was fun. I
Yep,
looked at a
dance
few dancer costumes
cosplayer.
out. Yeah, and it was like a few of those dancers. I was like, wait a minute, aren't they one of our cosplayers? Where are our cosplayers going? Oh, not one of ours, not our gang.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. The number of like weird looks we got was I think it was hysterical. I was like, y'all, some of your dance costumes are just as weird. Don't even. But my
Well,
favorite
some
is
of
what
them.
was walking in my dramatic outfit. Um and I made sure to put on my resting bee face, just full business mode because I wanted to get in and out of there. And I was in heels and I was like, let me out of here. I want to put my flats on. And they moved out of the way for me. They're just like, oh, nope, nope, don't mess with her.
Yeah,
It was great.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm sure there are so many stories out there of just people like they have to transport their cosplays, and so sometimes they have to interact with the everyday people, and it's just like, oh, hi, yeah, yep, I am dressed as so and so from this, and to my people, I make sense. To the rest of the world, not so much.
Yep.
Oh
I
dear.
still remember, if we want to do a quick story time here, uh,
Yes.
I had cosplayed as the White Queen for a princess event up here. Um, those of you who are up here know the Princess of Alaska. I did an event with them once upon a time where I did the White Queen, it was so much fun. And we decided to meet at, I think it was Steam Dot downtown. It was one of the coffee shops downtown. I was pretty sure it was either Steam Dot or like Starbucks. But we had all met there. And I remember like the baristas as we walked in one by one, just their faces of like, what the heck is going on? And they were all just so confused. And and like, I think I went to go get like a coffee or something before I realized I forgot my wallet. Um, and we had to explain to them, being like, hey, we're going to hang out here for a little bit. And like, we made sure to get coffees and whatnot. So we're just loitering inside their store. Um, but just the looks. And then the regular people who were coming in the store too. And we're just like, just going, la da 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 da. It's a big group of princesses. And like some people are like, oh, this is really cool. And other people are just like, who are these crazy people? And do we need to call the cops?
Yeah. By the way, what is the White Queen from? You've mentioned this play before, and I'm like,
Oh,
from
yeah.
Alice in Wonderland?
So Alice in Wonderland, yes. So I
Oh,
did the
awesome.
live action version of the White Queen from, I don't
The,
remember what year that
the
came
Tim
out.
Burton one?
Yeah. Yep.
I love
That
that
one
one.
was rushed. I'm redoing a revamped version of it because I'm hand embroidering the corset. So taking my dear sweet time. But yeah, it's like 2 years in the making at this moment.
Nice.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing it.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. But speaking of transportation, because we've gone into a lot of stories about transportation and awesome, fun things and interacting with the public, but we're also doing this episode on online shopping, which we have discussed in previous episodes to a small degree. One of the big things is we talked about how you had to be careful and you had to not just look at the pictures that the company provided, but also pictures that reviewers provided, because they would put things in a different light. And you would have to check a lot of different things, but we've never really gone into like, how do you find a reputable site? Not just a site that's going to send you something. Maybe.
Yeah, for sure. So I know a lot of people like to just Google the item they're looking for. We'll just stick with Naruto since everyone knows Naruto. But say you're looking for Naruto's jacket. So you just kind of Google, Naruto's jacket, and then you hit the shopping tag on Google. And that's going to pull up a whole heck of a lot of options. Then your next question is, okay, which site do I go with? You're going to and I know like a lot of people like to shop via price. So they're going to just look up, the jacket and find the cheapest one and then go with that. However, because that is such a popular item, there are a lot of scam sites that will use that to essentially scam you out of money. So there is that risk. Now, the best way to avoid that is, so if you don't know already, some like basic sites to go off of, like I know there's Amazon, AliExpress. There was one other site that I know of, and I can't remember the name. It's on Facebook. Maybe I'll find it later for y'all. But like Amazon, AliExpress are probably like some of like the more common ones you can find that on. It's not as bad. But now say you're just going with a random one. Let's just say the one you find is like animecause.com. Okay. First off, one of the best ways to look at is how many items are they selling on their site? And they should have an About Us or Contact Us section. If they do not have that, or if the Contact Us like email is just to like a Gmail or it looks kind of weird, the chances are that that it's a scam have gone up. Your next best option would be to go onto Google, try Googling the site. Don't put it in your HP bar. Just Google the site animecause.com. Now, there are instances where it'll still pop up, which means it's probably been active for a few months. But that if you put in animecause.com and then put reviews at the end of that in the search bar, that will tell you if there's been any reviews on the site whatsoever. If there's been 0 reviews or only 1 or 2, again, it's probably a scam. There are a couple of sites that you can put in. If you just put it in the search bar, anime cause web scam, and you just put a question mark, and it should pop up a couple of sites that will actually do a free diagnosis of the website for you, where it'll tell you when the site opened, where it originated from, if the IP address where it was created has ever been connected to another site that was designated a scam as well. So that's one thing you can definitely look at for sure. Because I know like one thing during the holidays, especially on Facebook, this is absolutely horribly known for this, of where it'll advertise popular items, especially if you already searched those items. You get those Facebook ads for them. Yep. But you get some like really weird sites. This is one of the best ways that you can essentially review to see if the site's a scam. Now, if you get the recommendation for like a friend who's ordered there a couple times, I doubt it's a scam. But there have been instances where even well-known sites that are known specifically for cosplay have given less than satisfactory products. Usually the instances with this is when you buy a product and they don't have stock photos of it posted, they just have like the anime character, 9 out of 10 times you're probably going to have a problem with the production itself. I've had that instances a couple of times myself where I did that test. Me and my roommate ordered 2 different cosplays from the same site. It was 2 maid outfits. The only difference was the gems. The gems on the dress were different colors. Now, their cosplays, where they ordered theirs specifically, had stock photos, whereas mine did not, despite being the same dress, just different items. They got their cosplay within like 2 months. It took mine about a year to get here. And that was me harassing the company, being like, hey, I paid for, express shipping. I should have got this months ago. Like, what's going on? All that jazz. So that is one thing to keep in mind when you are buying from even reputable cosplay places, is look at the photos. If they only have an anime photo, and if they've got reviews, it might not be a huge problem. Definitely review those. But if there's no reviews, there's still that risk. So that's something for sure to keep in mind. Good tea.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No, online shopping can be like, even if it is from a reputable place, it can still, you can get some things in and then you're like, holy moly, what did I get?
Yeah. That was my problem recently on a site. I ordered this wonderful wig and paid for express shipping, so I'd get it here a little faster. I knew that with COVID, it wasn't going to get here as fast because, again, COVID stuff has been delayed. But it was 3 months in, and it was at least a month past the estimated date of like roughly when they expected it to get here. Was just like, hey, what's going on? It was really surprised because I was expecting this item to ship. But when I checked the status, it was like, oh, still pending. And I'm like, you guys withdrew the money? What's going on here? Like, I've never had any problems before. And I love their products, but they ended up giving me a full refund, didn't say why, and I was just like, oh, okay. I was really sad because I really wanted that wig.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, so there are instances like that, which whenever you're ordering wigs, I would hope you guys order in advance, just so that if something like that does happen, you have plenty of time to reorder a different wig from a different company.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you're able to work out something with the current company and, have them still ship it. Yeah, just definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah, when you're doing online shopping, especially if it's third-party sellers through Amazon, make sure you leave plenty of time, because there is nothing like convention happens tomorrow and I'm missing this and this. Okay, yeah. It's cram time.
Yeah, one of the best ways also to help avoid that, to kind of figure out how much time you're going to actually need for this item, check to see where they ship from. 9 out of 10 times, if it's from China, it's going to take you a month or two, especially with COVID right now. I have an item actually right now. I had ordered some fabric that I found out was actually from China. I thought it was from Europe, but it turns out it was from China. I just mixed up the 2 different fabrics I was looking at. And so it's coming from China, and I was expecting at least a month for it to get here. But one, due to COVID delays, and then there's a delay at the factory as well that they mentioned after I purchased it, it's not going to get here for another 3 months. So it's definitely something to consider, because China, it takes much longer because it's China. Same thing with Europe. Though if you're buying most sites that are that ship from Europe usually tell you in the shipping area saying, hey, we're from Europe. If you're shipping to the United States, be aware of this, this, and this. And so most sites are really good about that. Same with those who on Etsy, the European sellers, they notify you as well.
Mm-hmm. You also need to make note of not only where it ships from, but where it's made, because some places they'll have distribution centers, so things have to get from where they're made to the distribution center and then out from there.
Yeah, which that can also play a huge factor in how much time it's going to take. So Most of the time they're pretty good, but sometimes it's just like, ah. So, yeah. But whenever you're ordering online, it's always a good idea to order way in advance. Like, if you can do a year, I would say do a year, honestly. But I know some of us don't plan our cosplays that far out. So, but like as soon as you know what you need to order it as soon as possible. Because you never know when instances like this happen. Especially if you're ordering from a site you're not too sure about. Now, there are cases of where you can even ask the cosplay community if they've heard of this site. And sometimes, look, I know a couple of people have posted on here in Alaska. We have Cosplayers of Alaska, I believe it's called.
I think it's Cosplay. I think it's Cosplay Alaska.
Cosplay Alaska. It's y'all who are here. Most of y'all know about that Facebook group.
Cosplay Alaska, yes.
Cosplay Alaska, yeah. Most of y'all who are up here know about that Facebook group. I've had a couple instances, like when I first started, I actually posted about contact lenses. I was like, hey, I found this site. It has some pretty cool stuff. I'm not finding a whole bunch of reviews. Has anyone bought here from before? And a whole bunch of people commented. Turned out just to be, they're really bad about updating their reviews and whatnot. But turned out to be a really good site, and I still actually use the site to this day. So yeah, it's definitely good to reach out, especially like I don't know a whole lot of people in the Facebook group, but they're a cosplay community, so use their knowledge to your advantage.
Yes. Yeah, and the other thing is that because we live in Alaska, shipping is always going to be really dodgy. And so it's a very good idea to add extra time in, but also use the community to your advantage, because the community more than likely has either heard of or used whatever resource you're trying to go after. So it's like, if they've not used it, I would almost say that's like maybe not a red flag, but definitely like a warning of, oh, hey, either these guys are really, really new, both a good and bad thing, or they are a scam.
Yeah. Which I know for like Alaskans, it's really hard for sites because we have to order so much stuff up here. So like it's hard, and I fully understand that. So it's definitely something we like Alaskans have the most trouble with. We don't have, fabric districts or easy access to materials. We have to go to 3 different stores to get every material that we need. If we're lucky, they're not sold out. But you do know during cosplay season, they're generally sold out.
Yes. Yep.
But yeah, no, definitely use the cosplay community to your advantage. Don't be afraid to post being like, hey guys, I'm looking for this Naruto jacket, but I can't seem to find a good site that has good quality jackets. Can y'all help me? And honestly, like 9 out of 10 times, they'll help. It might take a few days sometimes because how Facebook posts are. You don't see it till like days later. But
yeah,
the number of times I've had the cosplay community help me because I'm just like, I'm completely lost, has been such a lifesaver. So yeah, if you can find one that's in your area, most Facebook groups, there's usually a Facebook group of some sort for your area. So if you're in Washington, you could just do a vague Facebook search of Washington cosplayers and you'll probably find them.
Yep. Also check with your local convention. A lot of cosplayers are, especially if they're local ones, they're usually connected either directly or indirectly to conventions. At least that's my experience, is like, because I know a lot, like, we are a very small state, so of course a lot of the staff members are involved with Cosplay Alaska. They have friends in there, so it's like there's a connection. Plus, a lot of cosplayers, they go to conventions, so I assume to some degree that applies all over the state. Is you're going to have different groups that are cosplayers dedicated to. Bless you.
Sorry. Thank you.
dedicated to like going to certain conventions.
Yeah, no, for sure. I know sometimes if the Facebook group is large enough, they'll actually even have like little booths and sometimes too at conventions. So that's another
Oh,
good way to go. Um, I've had instances where if you ever go to a lounge area or just an area, sometimes they're not an official lounge area for cosplayers at conventions. You just see them kind of scattered in like certain areas. If you ever see like a large congregation, I've had times where I'll just be sitting around and I'll have people come up being like, "Hey, I'm looking for like a site or something for like local cosplayers. Do you guys know any recommendations? Things like that." Those are obviously the more bold cosplayers. They know if you have social anxiety, you're probably not going to do that. But most of the time, like I have no problems answering that question. I'm like, oh yeah, there's this group, or I'll even say, hey, this is my Instagram here. Reach out to me. I'm more than willing to hang out, talk about cosplay and such. So
yeah.
I met a few friends that way too.
Yes. I love how you could go to conventions and like you don't know these people, but you stand in line with them for 2 minutes and you start talking and instant connections, instant friendships. It's like, oh my gosh, these are my people.
Yeah.
These we understand each other.
Yeah. I still remember my very first convention. Oh no, sorry, it's the second time going. It was our first year at the Egan Center. And it was my first year cosplaying, so I was very, very nervous. And I was in line with someone wearing a toothless onesie, and I think it was a Deadpool cosplayer. But we ended up talking, I think it was about nail polish or something. I was talking to someone about nail polish, and me and the toothless cosplayer just ended up bonding. And then the person in front of them started talking to us. And at the end of it, there was four of us just talking, and we hung out the entire convention day.
Yes.
And just walked around together because all of us were by ourselves. So we just ended up bonding while we were in line and just walked around. And the next day, like each of us had gotten different costumes, but I had gotten the same one, only one I had at the time. And they're just like, "Oh my gosh, it's you from yesterday!" And ended up like tagging around with me again.
Ah, that's awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
And it made my first time cosplaying much easier because I was terrified. So it was just, yeah. Good times,
Yes.
good times.
I love it. All right, is there anything else about transportation and online shopping? Because we could go off on tangents and stories all day and all.
Oh, I know. And I think we're tired enough that we will.
Yeah.
No, just when it comes to anything online, look at reviews. Don't be afraid to Google it. If you don't find it within like the top 4 Google options when you Google it, it's most likely a scam or you misspelled it. There is that option too. So yeah, just do your research when it comes to new sites. Don't be afraid to reach out to the community. Because yeah, the older ones will know. They know.
Yeah. Deborah, have you ever done like an option where you looked for the contact us button and like reached out to the website themselves and said, "Hey, I'm interested in this product. Could I get more pictures of it?"
I have not, no. I guess that would be a possibility sometimes.
I don't know.
I
don't know.
There are some sites for those kind of cosplays that say they only they make them per order. So I would imagine for those kind of content ones, they might not have photos. So there is that possibility. It could even be that this is just a new one they put up, like an option up, which is why they don't stock photos yet. But the better the site, honestly, they're going to have at least some sort of stock photos. That's how you know they're more reputable. Still got to be careful, of course, just because we got stock photos. They could have stolen those stock photos from another site. There is that. I've seen that a couple times. But yeah. If you're comfortable doing that, I would say go for it. But 9 out of 10 times, they'll say under the description of it being like, this is made per order. So they probably won't be able to give you photos.
Okay. Well, I just thought of that as I was sitting here and I was like, wait a minute, could you do that? Would that work?
No, it's a good question. It's a good question for sure.
Alrighty. Well, I can't think of any other questions. But if anyone in our audience has a question about something we didn't cover, or we kind of talked about something but we didn't go over a burning question you have, feel free to leave a comment below or send an email to Deborah at her email address, which is part of the YouTube description.
Yes. Sorry, guys. I've got a complicated name, so it's easier just to say look in the description. So, yeah, definitely don't be afraid to shoot me an email. Also, don't be afraid to shoot us an email. Like, if not just a question, be like, hey, can you do a video on, I'm just going to say glasses because the first thing that comes to mind, cosplay glasses or nail polish, different things like that. We want to know what you guys want to see here. Also, because we're going to run out of ideas here eventually. So, yeah, let us know what you want to see. If you want to see us have a video of harassing the rest of SenshiCon staff, let me know. Because I will do it.
Yeah.
I will live stream that for y'all if you want. If I get an ad saying, hey, do a live video of you going to mess with staff, I will do it. They fear me. I will do it.
Oh, that would be good. That would be good. Yes.
Yeah.
But speaking of requests, we also have a request to all of you. We want to do an episode about cosplay horror stories. So if you have a horror story you want to share, feel free to drop a comment or send us an email and let us know about this horror story about cosplay. It can be either one. You can either do it anonymously or you can leave a name that you're okay with us revealing. Either way, we'll read the story out loud and share the story. Because I swear, sometimes the best stories about cosplay are the horror stories, just because afterwards you're laughing at them. At the time, it was the worst thing that happened, but afterwards, great story. Absolute lovely story.
It could also be something entirely like silly, or I guess something you think might be stupid that happened. Definitely share those as well. Those they might not be a horror story to you, but some of us probably. But yeah, no, we just come share the laughs with us. You hear my horror stories. Let's hear some of y'all's.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this episode or this podcast of SenshiCon Cosplay Myths. Join us next time. When is the next episode? It'll be 2 weeks from today. May 29th. Yep. Join us then for another episode. And again, if you've got any suggestions, any ideas, anything you want us to look into or kind of give advice on, feel free to drop a line. We're more than willing to help. Thank you again for joining us. I'm Rebecca and this is Deborah. Have a good day.